House Partners, 1081 Main Street. Excuse me, I'm under the weather. I've been diagnosed with Lyme disease and having issues here physically. But I just wanted to meet with you this evening and bring you up to date on what we've been, Great House Partners has been meeting with the town manager and the town planner on a regular basis and working on potential funding sources and tenants. And we've been exploring many different avenues. And as of now, we have just met, last week we met with Mass Development. And Mass Development has got a program where they will do funding of bond sources, pre-development funding, and financing. Gillette is with me tonight, and hopefully she can help me with this and go through this.
Yeah, so basically we've made a lot of headway in actually sort of looking at the tapestry of different types of financing arrangements. And the work is still ongoing. Bill has done a great job. Like he said, he met last week with Massachusetts Development, and so we've identified a number of different funding opportunities or options to actually really get this started. Some of it will be by having certain entities that will work directly with interested tenants to help them secure the financing they need, let's say at a nonprofit level, and then also for the affordable housing part. So what we've discovered in all of the months that we've been working on due diligence is this is a project that really is going to require kind of a little bit of a domino effect. We're going to have to actually pull together quite a number of different sources and funding kind of arrangements in order to make this a viable project, which we kind of knew when we took it under, but we're really getting down to some of the granularity of what those funding options are looking like, what could be free or not subsidized, but at a lower cost of capital that will really help, let's say, the commercial, in the end, any amount of commercial funding that we might have to raise to really decrease the cost of capital that therefore makes the project viable. So in terms of tenants, we've had a number of conversations. We already had a few conversations with some of those prior to even the initial presentation they had last fall, but now we're starting to really solidify and concretize in terms of what that looks like, what the costs will need to be per square foot, et cetera, and what sort of the market might bear in terms of even that middle, that first floor that we were originally talking about as trying to be maybe a co-working space, some sort of an incubator, et cetera. So
we're talking educational and universities along with startup businesses. So we're looking at exploring many opportunities, not just the startup business.
Yeah, so what's happened is we've actually been pursuing all sorts of, let's say, the more official types of funding and possibilities, but also having the kinds of conversations that people need to be having, to kind of ferret out where there are going to be some, I hate to use that word synergies, but talking with certain high net worth individuals who are interested in the community who may also potentially be people who could help give seed money or who'd be interested in investing, or at a minimum actually bringing in their networks and identifying potential business opportunities or entities to move into the space. And so what Bill was referring to is just one conversation that's been had where there may be an academic institution that might be very interested in doing a satellite arrangement. But obviously everything's quite new at this point. We're still sort of getting the details of every single option to kind of again see what's the tapestry that really makes sense for the building. And then we're starting to feel like we're getting a bit of that domino effect, because the first domino has to fall before anything can go forward. And so the meeting with the Mass Development has gone very, very well in terms of really beginning to identify some serious funding sources for 2/3 of the building that would make it actually viable for nonprofits and affordable housing.
So moving forward, tomorrow there's a Western Mass Developers Conference in Springfield, and they're going to talk about historic tax credits, new market credits, and funding sources available for Western Mass. Governor Charlie Baker is gonna be the keynote speaker. We're gonna be there. We're gonna represent the town of Great Barrington on this. Along with that, the following week, there's a Massachusetts Economic Development Conference for innovative spaces somewhere out north of Boston, which I'll be going to. So we're exploring all these things and moving forward and just keep rolling and going forward to make this work.
And just to say, the people that Bill met with at Mass Development are very, very interested. They're very keen on this, very kind of bullish in terms of investing in this part of the state. So I think it's just been slowly but surely sort of, continue to have the conversations with them, to continue reaching out to them. Part of going tomorrow is obviously for us to learn, but also to kind of keep on the front burners of the people that are really making these decisions, to say that we're serious about it. This is something that we really want to go forward with.
And in the mass development meeting last week, Smitty Pignatelli was on a conference call with us and was involved in the conversation, and was very supportive of us and this project, and he's moving forward with us. So just so you know where we are with this at this point. Any questions?
Comments, questions?
I think at this point. No, it sounds like you're moving forward and doing what you told us you were gonna do.
Yeah.
You're doing your due diligence and things.
And from this point on, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, that's.
We'll just keep giving more and more information as it comes.
Sure.
On a more regular basis. I'd like to have a more of a dialogue with the board, if I may, in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, all you have to do is just call the town manager, we'll put you on the agenda.
Okay.
Just make sure it's before the Thursday before, and anytime you have updates or anything,
Okay.
we want you to be here.
One question, maybe it's also for the board to just throw out there too, is have you, in any of the discussions with the town, has in any of the conversations, has the needs of the town specifically related to space of the municipality come up? In other words, has there been any discussions about, and maybe not, because Jennifer may not have been given any kind of direction, but obviously the town hall needs space to use.
No, we haven't
Okay.
explored that at all.
Yeah,
Briefly, we brought it up as a bullet point,
Yeah.
but just to backtrack a little bit, we've been working with Jennifer and Chris on the parking, on the fiber optics, on the infrastructure pieces of it, and we're working together on it. I mean, but as far as tenants and things like that,
Okay,
no,
so
we
I guess
haven't
the question
discussed
maybe
it.
to this board is there any need for us to start discussing with them, the town having potential use, some
I
potential
encourage,
use in it?
I have informally mentioned, probably the need, for many things, that the town could use a room or a certain amount of space. They have been currently also looking to develop that space, so I think you need to continue with that process. I didn't have directions from the select board to do that, I just wanted to
Right.
reserve it as something that I would encourage the board, to really consider, okay, do we wanna have a town space in a portion of the building, because as they move forward, you'll need to, put that on the table.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
so timing is good,
Right.
and you should,
I guess that's where I'm
Should
going,
I
because I
encourage
know
you?
you
Right.
haven't had that direction, but I
Right,
just didn't know if
exactly.
that's been, because we haven't had that discussion. about
right,
that, so.
right. I would think that, so I recommend that, just to follow up on what Dan said, that the select board, consider what type of space and what for purpose you might wanna have in the building, and then at that point, you can see, you can evaluate the pros and cons of keeping a certain portion for the town, maybe a room or two or what have you, and then compare it to what you have as available tenants, and then kind of ponder the decision.
So let's put that on a future
Okay.
agenda.
When would you need to know that kind of information, Bill? I mean, is it sooner the better for you guys?
Yes, it's
Okay.
ongoing though. In our next meeting with Chris and Jennifer, we'll discuss it further.
Yeah.
We'll go in depth with it.
So, if the town were to come into some agreement that we were gonna use some of the space in the building, does that help their funding sources? Can the town?
Well, I think you wanna be flexible, so I think
Okay.
that what you should do is establish what your needs are, but
Mhm.
also not make a firm, I don't think the town's use of the space is the anchor that you need in
Right.
order to attract other developers. So
No, I
and it
understand
may
that.
not- it
I
may be-
didn't know if it was for
So-
just that over the hump kind of funding source that they might need or something like that. I
It's
don't.
hard, yeah, it's hard.
It's
It's hard to
very-
say. It
okay.
could be the key thing, or it could be that it's the space that a private entity would prefer, and then we might be beneficial to just say that
Okay.
we'd find the space elsewhere.
Alright, right.
So I would keep it flexible, but I think doing the work, what I suggest the select board do is determine, okay, what is a reasonable amount of space that the town would wanna preserve for current needs, future needs, and just have that defined, and it could be one of the things that you consider.
Yeah, I mean, the more, I think, concrete in terms of how much space and what that, you want that space to look like, the better for us, just to put it into the mix. Cause, you know, at this moment, we're talking with potential tenants about particular space and tranches, so it would be good to have that to put into the mix.
So we'll put it on the next agenda if we can. If it's- Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Designation